How many people were here last night? How many people weren't here last night? Okay. So I'll start with a little bit of recap of what we did. That I wanted to address this question of why meditation is so difficult. What can we do to make it easier? What are the things that we can try to incorporate into our meditation that will take it from more of a mental or mechanical type of exercise to the real feeling that we're entering into some divine realm? So that the process of meditation, the period of meditation, becomes something very sacred, we can say, and becomes very special to us, and we take it very, very seriously. How can we develop the mindset that will really change the way we look at meditation? Because I really think that if we understand the way meditation works, we'll have some insight into this relationship between consciousness and the mind, between the Jivatman and Paramatman, lower self and higher self, or devotee and God. What is that relationship? What is that play? What is taking place at the time of meditation when we're trying to forget this outside world completely and understand what takes place internally in that divine realm within the heart, if we want to look at it that way. So I began yesterday with this idea that we should try to find some way of looking at meditation as a process, as something that will bring about change in our lives, as something that will help us develop devotion, as something that will let us feel that this connection with divinity within, or even that sense of oneness, something that will give us a direct link between the process and practice of meditation and this goal of realization. So this is more or less where we started, that we talked about this characteristic of the mind to be restless, that the mind will be wandering all over the place. We know that the first thing that we're told is practice this abhyasa yoga. So this is what we find in Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna is complaining that the mind is wandering around. This is abhyasa yoga. So abhyasa yoga is helpful. There's no doubt about that. That sometimes we simply have to practice willpower. That people say, "What do I do when the mind wanders?" You tell the mind to stop wandering. Yeah, that just bring it back and convince the mind that this is not what you want to do at the time of meditation. You have plenty of other chances to think about whatever you want to think about. This is the time when we don't do it. We put that do not enter sign. So this abhyasa yoga, we find that it works to a certain extent, but this controlling the mind is like straightening the curly tail of the dog. It keeps coming back. We make some progress, of course, but this is the difficulty that we have if we simply rely on the power of the mind to control the mind. So then we're told that we need this vairagya. We need this dispassion, because we have to ask ourselves, why does the mind wander? What is this attraction? See, the mind will go to whatever attracts it. It's a very obvious, logical type of thing, that every thought has some desire behind it, and some desire for some type of enjoyment. Even thinking is a type of enjoyment. So we have to analyze the mind and look at the thing, the direction that it's going in, and try to get to the heart of all of this. Why is it so attracted to external things? And then we bring in this idea of vairagya, that we have to somehow learn and practice detachment. So this means that we have to change our lifestyle a little bit. So we can see already that in the beginning we have to have a little bit of this jnana yoga, We want to have some understanding of the real nature of the self, a little bit of this karma yoga. We have to have that detachment, and this jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. And this bhakti yoga that if we develop love for the ideal, this is called anuraga. And Sri Ramakrishna, if you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, almost every time he talks about Vairagya, he adds anuraga. These are two things that go together. There's dispassion for the world and love of God or of the spiritual ideal. If we look, he calls it vyakulata, this tremendous longing for realization. If we look at the main example that Thakur gives, you know, the story, the disciple asks the guru, what type of longing does one have to have in order to realize God? So he takes him to the pond and he pushes his head underwater, and the disciple is almost dying, pushing up and gasping for breath until he lets him up. And then he says, how did you feel? Now he says two things. One, I felt as if I were dying, that if I didn't get up, that would be the end. This is Vairagya. And I was longing for a breath of air, anuraga. So they go together, the longing for something higher, and this distaste for these other things that simply bring in more and more difficulties in life. So, and Thakur's prescription, his formula was, don't worry too much about this dispassion for the world. Increase this longing for God or for truth or for realization. See, this vyakulata, who had it more than Buddha? He had no belief in God. It wasn't a personal God thing with him. He had this tremendous longing to realize the truth. So these three things are necessary, and the emphasis that I tried to give last night, was this jnana yoga side. That is there some way that we can understand this practice of meditation that will help us understand the importance of meditation? Now, in some things, the way it works is very much secondary. Suppose we were learning to drive a car, and somebody says, you know how to start a car? Yes, you put in the key, and now, of course, you press a button, and you turn it, and it starts. And then somebody says, do you know what's really happening? I say, no. What's really happening? Some idle also don't know. Some spark is coming and something is ignited, and it makes some things turn, pistons, and they go up and down, and axle turn, and it's connected to the wheel, and then the car goes. We don't need to know all of that. If we want, we can be a very good driver without knowing any of that. Meditation is the opposite. This is my feeling, that the more we understand how it works, that the better it'll be for us, that we'll develop some conviction about the efficacy of meditation. So what takes place during meditation? There's a psychological element also. We didn't mention too much of that, a little bit this night, that how these different desires will come up, thoughts will come up, that we'll start to understand the nature of samskara, the nature of the mind. That this mind is a combination of all the impressions that are formed from all of the experiences of this lifetime and perhaps other lifetimes. And that all of these represent channels or ruts in the way that we think and live, that we have to somehow understand the strength and the role that they have and how important they are and how they color everything and actually remove our freedom from us. That again, Gita is very good for these psychological things. That Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that everybody's at the mercy of their nature, prakriti. Nigraha kim krishyati, what can even restraint do? Now, of course, we have to come back and say, but that's the only thing we have to try it, of course. But the point is that we're very much bound by our personality and all of these traits and everything. So at the time of meditation, we start to understand psychological elements of the mind. So this is one thing. And also, when we meditate, we're trying to weed out some of these old things, to not to turn it into a psychological session, self-analysis, but to get rid of some of these false ideas about ourselves. Anyhow, to cleanse ourselves a little bit at the time of meditation. But also, we're trying to understand what is that link between myself as an individual and that divinity which dwells within as consciousness, or from the devotional point of view, this idea of the Antaryami, this idea of that God dwelling within as the inner guide, the inner controller, the one who hears our prayers, answers our prayers. All of this can be understood a little bit at the time of meditation. And to me, this is a very helpful thing. So yesterday, I emphasized and talked about one model. And I like to use this term model because otherwise we get hung up on this idea that is this the true explanation of things? Is it really the mind? Does the mind belong to nature? Is it a combination of the gunas? And this idea of model is that don't worry too much. This is one way of trying to understand it. If it's helpful, good. If it's not helpful, then let other people utilize it. That's all, this idea of model. So yesterday we looked at this, what I call the Sankhya Yoga model, that the mind is an instrument, that this consciousness is reflected in that mind. If it's a pure mind, then we can get this pure realization of the self. If the mind is disturbed, then the image that we get, the reflected sun, is disturbed. So this is that Sankhya model. There's another model that I'll call the Vedantic model, because it doesn't involve this radical distinction between, we can say, Prakriti and Purusha, between consciousness and mind as part of nature, and that idea of one is reflecting in the other. This is a way of trying to understand the nature of the mind as being just that surface of consciousness itself. Now, if we look at one of the most important teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, this idea that if we purify the mind, this pure mind is one with a pure buddhi. Sometimes he'll say merge this pure mind into pure buddhi, intelligence, and this pure buddhi is one with this pure Atman. Now, if the mind is an instrument, no matter how pure it is, we'll never identify it with the Atman. So it's a different model. I don't want to get in this philosophical thing that to me it's not helpful at all. See, philosophy is a very good and helpful way of looking at things, but it can also be a very harmful thing. It can get in the way of everything. Every description of something. What is philosophy? It's a description. It's a description of the way we think this world works and everything is. Every description is a limitation and a restriction. So we come up with a philosophical system that appeals to us, and it's logical and also gives some scope for devotion, and we don't have to worry about anything. See, Sri Ramakrishna, he gave that very, very famous proclamation, Jotoma Totopat. Now, we generally take this to mean as many faiths, so many paths. But actually, this word mata, the Sanskrit word mata, it means philosophy also. So every philosophical system for Sri Ramakrishna, not a single one of them is something that we can say, yes, this is true. This is the way it is. They're all paths. They're all paths to God. So we don't have to quarrel too much about which is right and which is wrong or anything. This was, but he used to emphasize. He said, "Mat to Ishwar noy." The path. Don't confuse the path with God. So this experience, what is Brahman like? Brahman is like Brahman. Everything else, every analogy falls short. So the same thing with philosophy. So this will be a different way of looking at it. This philosophical system that I'm going to talk about now, that we almost have to define and re-understand what we think of as mind. Now, this is another interesting thing, that the mind is something that we never come into contact with. No one has ever seen the mind. No one has ever heard the mind. We've no way of knowing exactly what this thing is that we call mind. That all we know is what we consider to be the functions of the mind. We have thoughts, we have emotions, we have feelings, perceptions, imagination. We have all of these things. We know all of that. So we have some assumption that it has to come from someplace. Right? And we call that mind. Swami Vivekananda, he says in one place that it's just like matter. Do we ever see matter? Matter is some metaphysical presupposition. There has to be something underlying things. There has to be ground for that. So we assume if we see, all we see is phenomena, all we see is colors and shapes in the outside of things, we assume there's something underlying that. We call it matter. So Swamiji says, underlying all of that is some unknown thing. In the Western philosophy, they said the thing in itself, unknown and unknowable, we'll call it X. Underlying the mental phenomena is something also we don't know, we'll call it Y. He says X and Y are both Brahman. So this is a slightly different way of understanding what is the nature of the mind. It's almost a little bit similar to this idea of no mind, that as soon as we get beneath the surface of it, then we're getting into this other realm, this realm of awareness and consciousness. So this we'll have a couple of different new models that I want to present today. This first one is something that Swamiji talks about. I don't remember where, one of his lectures in Jnana Yoga. And this has to do with this idea of akasha, this space. And this, we have these theories of something called ghatakasha and mahakasha, space within the jar and infinite space. Anyhow, Swamiji is going to talk about this space, ether, space. Now, space, ether is considered one of the 5 elements, right? None of the 5 elements are really elements. We know this. This is an ancient type of understanding. They're all compounds. Earth is a compound. Now we know elements are to be something different. They're all combinations, but they're a very common idea. In the beginning, there were 4 elements. This akasha comes later. Now, why bring in this akasha? What is akasha? Space. The thinking of these ancient Greeks and some others was that how to account for the fact that everything is not touching. There has to be something what is the separator of things? So they call it akasha as if it's an element. Actually, it's not. This space is that in which everything else exists. These are the only, akasha is the only so-called element that doesn't need its own space. If you have water in one place, you can't have fire there. If you have earth in one place, you can't have the air. But everything dwells within akasha. So they're coextensive. They're coextensive. So there's akasha, it's the space between things. It's also the space in which things exist. Okay? So if we think in terms of akasha and vayu, air and space. Okay? Now, what is the difference between air and space? Air is simply that there are different molecules resting in that space. That's all that it is. And maybe in between particles and other things, a combination of oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen and things, carbon dioxide, all of those different things. But it's coextensive. You can't have anything without empty space. And space is always empty. Now, what about this room? See, there's a chair there. Is that empty space where the chair is? Yes. Otherwise, you couldn't put a chair there. Right? Yeah. So this is that idea that consciousness is always empty. There's no content to consciousness. Everything exists within it. That's why it's pure and free and eternal. There's always an empty. There's an emptiness idea of consciousness. This is why the Buddhists like this shunyata idea. So Swamiji talks about 2 things. This Chidakasha and Chittakasha. One is Chid, one is Chitta. Okay, so Chidakasha is like the empty space, pure consciousness. Chittakasha is mind. So all of these molecules and particles and things that are floating around there that we call air, it's like the mind, that the mind, actually there are many gaps in the mind. Just as the most solid thing that we can think of, that if we look at it under a microscope and we can get far enough down so we see the molecules and things like that, we'll see it's mostly empty space. So same thing with mind, that we don't have a steady flow of thought. We use this term, this Taila Dharavat, that is steady flow of oil from one to, but even that, they're just drops. Everything has a gap in it. The mind itself makes it seem, just like when you watch a movie, it's one cell after another, after another, after another. It goes fast enough, it looks like it's unbroken. This Mandukya Upanishad, this Gaudapada, he gives that example of the waving the torch. It's also a Buddhist example. You do it fast enough, it looks like a complete circle without any gaps. Actually, at any second, it's only 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. So this relationship between the mind and consciousness. So every gap, between every thought we have, there's infinite space, infinite. So there's an expression, I don't know who first came up with it. I heard Swami Sarvagatananda used to mention this. God is found in the space between two thoughts. So then we're simply in the realm of Chidakasha, because there's no chitta, there's no thought at that particular time. So if we think about going into outer space, if we can go far enough into outer space so that the air is very rare, and we can reach a point where there are no air molecules, just empty space. This will be that samadhi state, something like that. So Swamiji explains it that way. But at the same time, every thought that we have also is proof of consciousness and proof of the emptiness of consciousness, not just that gap in between. So we can have that feeling that this mind is nothing but these thoughts and things floating in front of the screen of consciousness, and I am the observer of that. Now, our meditation starts to take a different feeling for us at that time. Of course, this is all according to Jnana Yoga, but it's helpful to think of these terms sometimes. So this is that type of meditation where we feel that, like an astronaut going into outer space, trying to reach that rare area where it's pure space, we're doing that within, diving deep within, trying to make the mind quiet. When the mind is quiet, then the mind is one with the Chidakasha, with that real space at that time. So this will be merging the pure mind into the pure self, that idea, with using this illustration. Chidakasha and Chittakasha. Yeah, it's I don't remember the Cosmos or one of Swamiji's lectures from Jnana Yoga. So this Chidakasha, this will be Brahman. This will be that if we like, we can say we're entering into the heart of God at the time of meditation, and have that feeling that it's not just that the mind has to be perfectly still. Every thought that we have is resting on consciousness. So just this idea that just like a wave, that what we call mind is just the surface area, and that otherwise it's nothing but water. This is the real, when it becomes still, then it becomes one with that water. So a little bit like this idea of no mind, Buddhist idea, that there's no mind, only our feeling that we have a mind is just because of all this phenomena, everything. It's like light. Now, if somebody turns the light on, and I asked, is the light on? You'll say, of course the light is on. Now, can we see light? Anybody?
Not directly, but only as a reflection.
Even as a reflection, we don't see light. We see the object. The light is invisible. Even Sri Ramakrishna said that. Even he had that understanding. Light is invisible. So how do we know that the light is on? Because we see objects. We see objects. So how do we know that because consciousness? People say, well, we don't see consciousness. How do we know that consciousness is there? Because we have thoughts, we have feelings and experiences and everything. So this is a way of understanding that we can enter into that divine presence. What do we say? Now we're entering into the heart of God Himself, herself. If we go into that realm where the mind becomes still and quiet, where the mind merges into something. See, this manonasha, we have this term that's used very often, destruction of the mind. Now, Thakur is very clear. He's constantly telling people that when people say God can't be realized with his mind, he'll say, no, God can be realized through the mind, but the pure mind. So this what is destruction? Is destruction of this ordinary mind. That if simply destruction of the mind will give God realization, then people with brain problems and surgeries and lobotomies, all of that, they'd be God realized. So everything takes place through the mind. Nirvikalpa samadhi takes place through the mind. We have this other idea, tada karakarita, that the mind, it's not just that there are no vrittis, it's empty and vacant, but it takes the form of God Himself. So with the mind, we're taking the form of empty space itself. It's a positive type of thing. There has to be some type of experience there. Now, I want to give another example, which is even better for me, that it appeals to me very much. This idea of the wave in the ocean. That what we call this individual mind is just this individual wave, and all of these different minds are waves on the same ocean. So we have all of that in common, that if we go a little bit beneath the surface, see what we do when we meditate, the first thing that we do is we cut off the senses. So we're not seeing, or at least we're trying not to hear things, not to tactile sensation, all of that, everything to be on the mental. So we go a little bit beneath the surface of the mind, and we're at that level. We go a little bit deeper, and we get into a psychological side of things. We can enter into this area of this subtle mind and samskaras and everything. So this is what the Divine Mother does to prevent us from going all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. These are the sharks and alligators Thakur talks about. That we try to go deep in meditation. What happens? The mind gets pulled away. These desires, these passions, other things will come. Anyhow, we try to go a little bit deeper there, and we enter into a realm, we can say cosmic mind. Now, I like this idea that all the individual mind connected with this cosmic mind. Now we can understand these different experiences. Bhava samadhi. What is bhava samadhi? Thakur would go into this bhava samadhi where he would commune with the Divine Mother. Now, most people would think this is a function of the mind, that he's imagining things. Even Swamiji, Narendra, he used to say these were all monarbhul, hallucinations. But if we understand this way, he's entering into a deeper realm where now this cosmic mind is this divine lila, this play, everything is taking place there. And we go even deeper and deeper. And then we get to this image of we find the gems lying at the bottom of the ocean. So there's a beautiful song that Thakur used to sing very often. And he used to say, "Doob dao, dive deep." It was one of his very common things. He used to sing that "Doob doob doob, Rup Shagare Amarban." A beautiful song that dive deep, O mind, and dive deep into the realm of Rup Shagare. This ocean contains these divine forms. This ocean is not simply this infinite absolute, but this divine play is there because we're entering into that that cosmic mind, and where if we believe in the gods and goddesses and all of these things, they'll be in that realm. It's not someplace up in beyond the stars and everything. That divine realm will be there. So doob doob doob, rup chakre amarmon. Oh, my mind, go deep, dive beneath the surface. So we forget about everything above that surface, and there you'll find the gems. So this beautiful song. It says, dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. So this is the devotional point of view, to have this feeling that we can commune with the personal God, that the reality, because we're lying on the surface of this cosmic mind, individual mind, part of the cosmic mind, all part of this consciousness itself. Now, what about the jnani? And what about this experience of samadhi and everything? We have another song, this Nibir Andhare Ma or Tomakai Ruparashi, this beautiful song that says, in dense darkness, O mother, thy formless beauty sparkles. Therefore, the yogis meditate in a dark mountain cave, and the lap of boundless dark, on Mahanirvana's waves upborne, peace flows serene and inexhaustible, taking the form of the void and the robe of darkness wrapped. Who art thou, mother, seated in the shrine of samadhi? So this means that when we dive deep, that there'll be areas of the ocean that are so deep that even light can't enter there. There's just darkness, that empty void. And this will be the yogi or the jnani entering into that stage of the infinite absolute. So now we can understand, if we like this model, there's one way of trying to understand how valid both the experiences are of the devotee who feels that sense of union with the beloved, with the divine within the heart, and the jnani who will feel that oneness with this infinite absolute reality. Both with the same model, we can say, of the diving deep and going beneath the surface of the mind and entering into that divine realm, either that realm of this Nirguna Brahman, infinite absolute, or Saguna Brahman. And the Saguna Brahman, there's scope for all different types of experiences. And yeah, I was mentioning last night also, this play of the subjective and objective elements of things, that it's real, but the experiences that we have are also subjective, depending on the nature of our understanding of God, what is the longing of the heart, how do we want to see God. So this will explain how Sri Ramakrishna, he'll enter into that state of samadhi, sometimes the Divine Mother, and talking to him. And we wonder, how does Divine Mother talk to him? If we understand that this is all a play within consciousness, within the heart, within this ocean, and that these are realities that we don't experience and we don't understand because we haven't reached that realm. Or Thakur also talks about the mind hasn't ascended to that higher plane. The same type of idea. We can see the reality of it, and at the same time, that there's nothing absolute about it. Someone else will have a different type of experience. But that realm of the personal God, Saguna Brahman, that is also explained by entering into this realm of Saguna Brahman or cosmic mind, if we want to look at it from that particular point of view. Anyhow, all of this is meant to, again, give us some understanding. This doesn't have to be the type of meditation that we do. We may strictly do a devotional meditation. We may strictly repeat the mantra and all of that. But at the same time, to have this feeling that it's not imagination, that we're entering into a realm where these things are real. And that we can have, that if we have some experience, it's not just that the mind is going into some higher state. We're entering into some reality that we can see. Now, just a couple of other nice short little things. The top word, another illustration. He says that the meditation, it's like the bird that's been in a cage that's been released. So if we can feel the soul of the bird, if we can feel at the time of meditation that we're released from the body, not physically, but our connection with the body is because of our identification and because we experience things through the senses. If we cut off all of that, we can feel ourselves to be the soul, that free soul, the jiva, if we like, and get this feeling of freedom flying through the sky. Or he says, like a fish that's let out of water. There's a very nice incident that took place where M was asking Sri Ramakrishna about this, what does it feel to experience this absolute reality? And then he mentions that there was one devotee, his name was Matishil, and he had a garden house and they had a lake there, a little pond, and there's some bridge, you could stand there, and the fish, nobody would fish there. And they would throw little pellets of food and things, and the fish would come to the surface and eat it and swim around. And he said, if you see how joyfully they swim in this water, you'll get some experience of what it feels like to swim in this ocean of consciousness. So Thakur gives these different illustrations and analogies. So all of these things are helps, but we find that it's not a golden wand. This doesn't remove all of the other problems. The mind still wanders, and we start to understand that we really have to engage this mind in divine thought, and we have to have a tremendous sense of purpose in life throughout the day. So then this idea of karma yoga comes, that we really have to gear everything to a meditative type of life, that when we begin our meditation, mind should be prepared. When we leave our meditation, we should try to keep that meditative feeling. This meditation, it's like spinning the potter's wheel, that we try to get some momentum of divine thought going, so that through the day, it'll slow down, but by the time we sit for our next meditation, we just have to start it again. So this karma yoga is very important, that the more we can do things as an offering, the less we lead a selfish and egocentric type of life. Because the real obstacle in spiritual life is this sense of ego, this sense of I, that is so connected and defined by and identified with this all the superficial aspects of our personality. So the more we can start to identify ourselves in some relationship with God, the more helpful it is. And the more we can try to keep the mind focused and repeat the mantra throughout the day. All of these things become very, very helpful. So we're going to stop here because we want to finish a little early. We have a few minutes for some questions. And then instead of a half hour, we'll meet again at, now it's 20 to 12. We'll meet again at 12. And then there'll be plenty of time for questions. In fact, the last session, if we like, can be mostly questions. But we have a few minutes now, if anybody would like to ask anything. Yes.
Let's say we sit there for a while and we stop our minds from wandering away, and then we finish. So after we are done meditating, how do we know that we have successfully meditated for a while and not just have sat there for a while?
Yeah, there'll be some sense that we forgot everything else. There'll be some sense that we had left the world behind, our problems and everything, some feeling that at least for a short period of time, I felt myself to be not one with God, but a jiva, and that I felt free from all of that, then we should feel some afterglow. This is very important. We have to keep that feeling that whatever we gained through that period of meditation, we don't want it to just fly away. So we should have some feeling that yes, I entered into some different realm that's different from my ordinary day, and that I feel that it's given me a little sense of calmness and peace. We should feel that something has changed and happened. There won't be necessarily objective markers for meditation, but we should feel something that we did something with some sincerity. We did something with some longing and real intention, and we should feel at least some sense that we did something positive. So that much should be there. Even what we call a bad meditation, the mind is wandering all over the place. At least to feel, yes, I have enough devotion to my spiritual practice that I'm willing to put up with some difficult period of meditation and everything. So yeah, we should feel that something is happening. Now, the changes that taken place in meditation are very often below the surface. We won't see. Transformation takes place. And we may be the last ones to see it. Other people may see, oh, you seem a little calmer and quieter, and I see, you accept things better and more content and everything. We may not notice these things ourselves. We have to have some faith that anything we do with sincerity will have its result. There'll be some fruits from that.
Maharaj, there's a question online from Rita. She says, Pranam Maharaj, you mentioned the experience of a free soul, the jiva, when we get freed from the body. How do we analyze that state if we still have the sense of I? It goes on. Is that sense of knowing our little self at that bodiless moment, is that our ego?
See, this question of ego simply means what is my sense of self-image? You ask me who I am, and I can answer in so many different ways. It's God-realized soul who says, I am one with Brahman. That's his ego. Devotee who says, who am I? I'm a child of the Divine Mother. That's his ego. Ego doesn't mean, see, we identify ego with pride and the false identification. It doesn't mean that. It means, what is my sense of I? Aham Brahmasmi. That's the ego. Who am I? I am Brahman. So the feeling that one is a jiva, that means that I'm the one who takes a body life after life, that I'm something separate from all of this, not necessarily one with Brahman. That'll be Atman. So this is a jiva buddhi. When Hanuman says, then we can feel one with God, a relationship, not one, with relationship with God, part to whole, something like that. So, and it's not that the jiva is leaving the body or anything like that. The body idea becomes secondary. Now, if we look at, say, Hanuman, this idea that he's a servant of Rama also means with the physical body as well. But this is that type of ego, Sri Ramakrishna says, that not only isn't it harmful, it's helpful. The Vidyamaya, this idea, that through that type of the ego, that feeling of dasya, this is dasya bhava, that I am a servant of God, one can realize God. So nobody is free from this sense of I. Only when we're sleeping, when we're in nirvikalpa samadhi, or we're absorbed in reading a book or something, we lose ourselves in something. Otherwise, everybody has a sense of I. There's a question of what does it mean to us, and how pure is that sense of I? And if it's that sense of I is so connected with our superficial aspects, then we're always constantly looking for praise and assurance and being stroked, and everyone loves us, and or we want to have power over people and enjoyment and all of that. So it's the content and nature of the I. There's nothing wrong with the ego itself. But this I that's in a relationship with God is the best aid for us. So Thakur, he gives different examples of this Vidya Shakti, Vidyamaya Shakti, and it's Avidyamaya. That if we eat spinach, this certain types of green leafy vegetables, spinach especially, it increases bile. And there's a different type of green they call hinche, that this, for some reason, this type of green leafy vegetable doesn't increase bile. On the other hand, it removes it, it counteracts it, it eliminates it. So not only, say we have desire, somebody says, well, desire for God, it's still a desire. Thakur says, but it's the desire that kills out the other ones. It's the good one. We step on a thorn, we take another thorn. Somebody says, why would you use another thorn? The thorn is the whole problem. So what will I do? Say, okay, then I'll live with the thorn in my foot. How foolish. No, even though the other one is a thorn, it's the good thorn that removes the bad thorn. Then after that, we can throw both of them away. But if we throw away the good thorn, then we're stuck with the thorn in our foot. Yeah. So we need a strong sense of I. This Dasya Bhava is the strongest possible sense. Oh, Hanuman, I can lift a mountain, I can cross the ocean, taking the name of Rama. What can be a stronger sense of I than that? And yet, this is the most helpful type. Or, if we want to practice this surrender, Sharanagati, what is better than the type of I of the baby kitten? Wherever mother puts me, I won't do anything. I'll only call mew, mew, mew. Wherever mother puts me, I'll be happy. That's the best thing for me. So that's also an ego. It's an I. But this is the I of the child, Shantan Bhav. Thakur says this feeling of being a small, helpless child, and mother has to do everything. It's also an ego. So this is all about what is the quality and nature of this ego. It's not that every sense of our I is wrong. We have to eliminate it. No, we can't do that. If we can feel I'm a devotee, a child of God, then this will counteract this other thing that I'm so-and-so, I'm an important person, or this type of thing.
There was a second kind of follow-on question, but I think you kind of covered it. She asked, when or how does it become the cosmic self?
Yeah, that's the depth to which we can go in meditation when we go beneath this personality level. And at that point, everything is grace at that point. We don't know, because we lose that sense of I and individuality and everything, and then whatever's revealed to us. So this is that mysterious level that we can't quantify it very well.